So, welcome back to TOXIQUE, the space where we unravel the things we were taught to swallow about desire, about love, about our bodies. And today's episode is all about sex. But more importantly, it's about shame, right? So, the kind of shame that we weren't born with, but something that we inherited, I'd say, from family silences to religion to culture to maybe colonial morality, patriarchy, and of course, I think fear dressed up as protection. So today we're asking what happens when desire grows up inside of repression and how we can sort of reclaim without guilt, always being sexualized as women in the media and or rather being told that sex is so dirty. So being desired and watched and commented on, but usually being punished for wanting. We all have desires, we all want something, but it's difficult to express that. So today I'm joined by the amazing Caroline Webb, who has hopped on board with TOXIQUE. She is a sex therapist, among many other things. And her work centers around healing sexual shame and reclaiming pleasure after repression. So this conversation isn't about being sexy, I'd say. It's about being free. So welcome, Caroline. Thank you so much for making time for TOXIQUE. How is everything going today?
Hi, Dale. Thank you so much for having me. Everything is good. It's a beautiful day in Johannesburg, so that's lovely. It's not too hot, but it's slightly overcast, but it's good. Everyone's winning, I suppose.
Wonderful. So tell me a bit more about who you are, if you can just give us a brief introduction.
Right. So let's talk about the sexual shame. I didn't like sex growing up. I steered clear from it because it was such a shameful thing. And over time, I realized that it is something to be enjoyed. And I call it a something because at the time, I didn't know what was going on with me when I had these desires, but you had to push it away at the same time. So how did the corporate workaholic, non-bearing children person turn into a coach and therapist? I had to look inward to face my demons.
Okay.
And then I decided that it has to start with me. I cannot save the world if I haven't saved myself. And then I decided to start studying and become a coach and a therapist. And I then studied cognitive CBT, so it's cognitive behavioral therapy, neuro-linguistic programming, and human behavior. And from there on, I delved into the sexual psychology of why we do what we do or why we avoid what we do. And then the relationship coach was born. It was a scary journey because every day I look back and I go, I'm still learning. So here I am, and I share what I can, and I try to be as non-biased as possible. And I just want everyone to have the best experience.
So thank you so much for sharing. I read your list of credentials and I was left breathless. You're so knowledgeable in this area, and we're so grateful to have you on board. So in your work, where do you see sexual shame being born? Like, how do people develop sexual shame?
It often goes back to our upbringing in terms of what we've been told. In my case, I come from a very strong Afrikaans background, Christian, no sex before marriage, not allowed to kiss boys. If you hold hands, it's going to lead to sex. And I was shamed for being a girl, growing up, developing breast, which is something totally natural and out of my control. But I was told because I am already developing at such a young age, the boys are going to come after me and I'm sure to have a baby by the age of 12 or 13 if as much as look at a boy. So I'm just giving you some of my experience. And so sexual shame comes from our upbringing. It comes from our parents' fear and guilt for maybe what they've been through. And then I call it the sins of the father and the mother. They pass it on to us. It's what we see and it's what we mimic in our families and what people force into us. And I say force by fear.
Yes.
Yes, because I was told it's the devil's work if you decide to have sex with a boy. Yet the opposite happens when you want to have a family. Then you're allowed to have sex with a boy. So it's a big contradiction.
So I can completely relate to this. I mean, when I got my period at the age of 12, my mother basically said to me, if you touch a boy, you're going to get pregnant. I was like, what? How? Like, how does it work? I had no knowledge around this. And, you know, it just leads to finding out things that you shouldn't, because parents are ashamed to like discuss it with their kids. So many of us weren't taught about sex. We were warned about it, right?
Correct.
What does that do to a person's nervous system?
We often, when you operate from fear, so when you are in a space of fear, you go into your flight, fight, or freeze mode. Not immediately though, because you don't know what it is until you get whipped with it all the time. In your case, if you touch a boy, you're going to fall pregnant. No one educated you of how to touch a boy to become pregnant. Instead, you were told to just avoid boys completely. And the brain, we seldom know how to process a negative, so we become very curious. And then the good old saying of how things are introduced to you first is the way you remember it. And then sometimes that has a negative impact. So the way the body responds, you can either, as I said, fight, flight, or freeze when we are taught through fear instead of educated. Then we store in our cells in the body. That gets held there. And some people then develop anxiety around it. So I had anxiety around sex and boys, which made me very awkward. Because no matter how nice I may have looked, or no matter how handsome I may have found you as a boy, I did not want to approach you because, God forbid, if I make a conversation with this boy, I'm going to probably fall pregnant, and I don't want that right now.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Like you said, our body stores negative emotion, right? So even when we intellectually reject shame, the body remembers. So
Correct.
how does repression live in the body?
Let's say you and I meet, and we really like this, and because you've been shunned from sex, so you've been shamed around it. Some people, and I see this in my practice, women would be in love with men and go, I love this man, you know, I have a family with him. I just can't have sex because it comes from my childhood. And essentially what happens is the body shuts down. The brain says, I want to be with you. I want to have sex. I want to be intimate. But the body either gives you anxiety, so you get heart palpitations. Sex is not natural for you. Desire is not natural for you. Some women, the pelvic floor clam up, so then they don't allow penetration. They dry up internally. And as I said, again, I go back to the anxiety. People get anxiety because then everything filters from that. And if I say anxiety, because if I don't perform in this moment, or if I don't give my husband the result that he's looking for, I understand the backlash I'm going to get from this. So it becomes this endless cycle of stress and negative energy in your personal space. And if you don't go into the work to educate yourself and let yourself know that you can liberate yourself sexually. So I also say this to people when someone is sitting in front of me, I say, come, let's talk about your desire. When they clam up, I ask them, what is your stress level at the moment? Are we talking, because I always do it out of 10, 2 very low, 5 we are idling in amber, 9 and 10 it's a red light. We are not going to get anything from this person.
So I'm so glad that you used the word, or you chose the word rather, perform, right? So because we have these inherited stories from our parents, the guilt, the shame that comes with it, as you've mentioned, um, people delve into things to learn about it in a different way, such as pornography. I mean, the internet is filled with information, and people sort of delve into those kinds of things because, like you said, perform, right? So we are taught how to perform. So, that being said, a lot of people think that they are bad at sex because we are sort of measuring ourselves to these standards that we see online, when really we were just never allowed to be in our bodies. And like you said, the question that you ask in your practice is like, what is your desire? And many
Yes.
people have never really thought about that. So how can someone tell the difference between desire and or low desire and repressed desire?
I say to people that no matter what I approach you with, when it doesn't feel natural and it's completely uncomfortable, what can we do to put you in a safe space? So you're asking me how can we tell the difference between the low desire and, let's just say, repressed desire?
Yes.
It's when it doesn't feel natural on the inside, but you will feel it here. You will feel ill. You will feel sick to your stomach. And I say to people, I beg of them, stop comparing yourself to what you see online or the way maybe I want to introduce something to you. Everything has to start with learning and an experience. We are not born with all the skills to perform, right?
Yes.
However, when you say, if I close my eyes, I always say to people, what is your best food or your best flower? And I take whatever they like and I use that as an analogy, as the vehicle to get them through the shame, the guilt, the fear, or their resistance to exploring themselves. So, for example, if you like a good massage, I say to people, let's not start with sex immediately. Let's go for a massage. And then I ask, what can we add to it?
Okay.
I want you to be safe, because that's the most important thing. Imagine you've got no idea, no skill. You don't know how to perform because you haven't received the script of what's expected next. It's very tough. It's very tough. It's about learning.
So let's talk about the moment that repression cracks, right? How do you build that safe zone with your partner? Because in many cases, you find it's two people who have these inherited stories, who are coming with their own unmet needs and their own expectations. And how do you build that safe space? And for many people, like, liberation doesn't feel peaceful. It feels pretty chaotic. So 2 questions here maybe. How do you build a safe space? And what does sexual awakening after repression usually look like?
Right. So I'm going to start with the latter. You said it brilliantly when you said it can be chaotic. It's chaos. It's like suffering and death, and you are in such a strong battle with yourself. And I call it strong because it's your old belief system that you held onto for so long, and you believe that this is the torch that you're carrying for how you're going to live your life in fear of sexual behavior. And I say behavior because it can be anything. It can be anything in terms of how you look at it, right?
Yes.
And then once you found your safe space and the right person to explore and experiment with, and things change around, and it's almost like you rise above yourself and you look at yourself when you're busy engaging and you think to yourself, wow, I cannot believe I was that person so fearful and so scared
Yes.
of being intimate with someone. Now I'm going to go back to the first question. You have to love yourself. Know how to self-pleasure. If you cannot love yourself, and I say love yourself, and that does not have to mean that I love you. I'm talking about the self-love. You have to enjoy your body. You have to look at you and go, I like who I see. I like who I am in this skin. Because if you can't give yourself validation and put yourself on a pedestal, how can you expect anyone else to please you, to pleasure you, if number one, you don't like yourself, you don't love yourself enough, you've got no self-worth, and you have no idea how the map of your body works, what the blueprint is that you seek, and how to change your sexual architecture. Because it's forever evolving.
Yes.
You have to start here. You have to start here. And I say that's ground level. Get naked. Look at yourself.
I love that,
Know what you see.
And I giggle a little bit because my personal sexual journey has been so interesting. I think when I shifted from this performative narrative to viewing it as a journey, a journey of exploration. It doesn't matter if it doesn't all happen happen in the same session. It doesn't matter if you orgasm or you don't. I've learned how to build intimacy and view sex as a journey rather than having this performative kind of narrative, I'd say. And it is so freeing. It's so wonderful. And I love the point that you've mentioned about just doing it with the right person.
Correct.
How do you know who the right person is, Caroline?
I'm going to say, let's just say we're starting at ground zero, no experience. And then I want people to take that and copy and paste it onto your level of your sexual engagement or your sexual experiences. You have to feel safe with this person to want to explore. For example, let's say I am not into any tie and tease, and suddenly on the first date, somebody wants to tie me to a bedpost and ravish me. That's not going to work for me. I will feel very unsafe being restricted purely because I don't know you. I do not know what's coming next. I need to be free. I do not need to be tied down. And I'm saying to everyone, if that person can be patient enough with you, and when you say no, they respect the no. They don't keep pushing the boundary. I'm going to say something.
I'm really happy that you've mentioned that, because a lot of people try to heal by pushing themselves, right? So forcing confidence, forcing openness, forcing kink, or forcing liberation, but it shouldn't feel like another performance, just like you said. And the safe space just prevents us from traumatizing ourselves once again. But if shame is inherited, then of course, so is silence, but silence can be broken. So what are the final steps you would say to rewriting our personal sexual stories?
You have to ask yourself to break the silence. Are you silent, avoidant, repressed because of how I might view you, which means you're making yourself small to not disappoint me. So it's the inherent shame or blame or guilt that people might bestow on you. So my family would say, if you have a boyfriend, you're going to fall pregnant and you can't have a child at 16. And I really couldn't understand the madness. It was spiraling. So I avoided boys for the longest time, based on if we talk about this now. And once I realized that I've passed the barrier of 16, strange enough, that veil of the heavy guilt I was carrying about meeting a boy by the time I'm 16, it just dropped. And it really felt as if I disrobed myself from the old me and I stepped into a new version of myself.
Yes.
Very bizarre, because I had this mental barrier up that I cannot date before the age of 16. Not that I knew the difference much, because at 17 I was holding hands and not doing much else. However, the steps that you can take, you have to ask, is this the voice that's in my head that I'm hearing, or the guilt and the shame that I'm feeling? Is it because someone has spoon-fed it to me? Is it my own belief system through my own experiences? Or am I living this through someone else's experience? Because I was living it through someone else's experience, if that makes sense. I was avoiding boys because you, as my mother, told me I'm not allowed, or else. And every time I brought a boy home, it was like, I really hope that you're not kissing that boy. So then I would come back and go, can't do that. And I really missed out on, I think, amazing opportunities to make friends.
Yes. I think just to add on to that, there are also some racial or cultural differences, right? So maybe in the Caucasian community, you have the opportunity to bring boys home. I don't know if I speak for the greater non-white
Yes.
population, but I'm sure people will drop some stuff in the comments. We weren't allowed to have guy friends, with this fear of, like you said, getting pregnant, and bringing a boy home is completely and utterly out of the question. And it prevents us from having or building or developing healthy relationships with the opposite sex, building friendships, learning how to interact. Because our parents, as you said right at the beginning, just deal with this fear and guilt of their own mistakes and are projecting that onto their offspring. So
Correct.
I had to struggle. I mean, I also, not only growing up non-white, I also attended an all-girls school, which limited my interaction with males, like, even more. And only maybe at university or later on, or my early 20s, did I learn to interact with men. And at that point, I did not know where to begin, right? So instead of learning how sex feels, I think that we learn how it looks. What does that do to the relationship with your body? Like you said, get naked, love yourself, do those kinds of things. But when we have these preconceived ideas and all this information that we've consumed, or visuals that we've consumed, how does that impact our relationship with our own bodies?
I'm going to talk about the here and now instead of the 50 years ago when I was still young.
Okay.
The here and now, I see deeply wounded young adults. And I say wounded because they compare themselves to whatever it is they see on social media. I have yet to meet teenagers, young adults that have a healthy sexual relationship with themselves, where they can stand here and go, this is me, this is what I love about myself, and I'm not going to follow the herd of sex texting, sending booby pictures or whatever else it is for clicks or for likes or for anything like that. Those people do not have a healthy relationship with themselves. They might think that they've got confidence, but it is the lack of confidence dressed up through sexual fake expression. It's horrible. It's horrible what I see. I mean, half of the teenagers out there, if I see them now, I will not let my boy or girl leave home doing what they're doing. It's what I see out there. It's awful. If I go back to my times, the sexual oppression and how to be comfortable in your own body, and I know I'm going a little bit off topic.
Okay.
You have to know, and this is what I ask people, ask yourself, what I'm about to do I want to put it on a billboard next to the highway for everyone to see? That's the first question you ask yourself. So what I'm about to engage in, am I so comfortable with myself knowing that the entire world can see it?
So I'm actually going to play devil's advocate here a little bit.
Yeah.
Only because I know this is going to spark some conversation. So, I mean, like you said, it's confident. It may look like confidence, but it's just dressed up, right? However, many people believe that these kinds of social media platforms are platforms to express one's sexuality and the freedom you feel to be confident in your body and expose whatever you feel fit, enhance your assets, whatever that may be, and show the world that you are very confident in your skin. Would you agree with this narrative, or where do you stand on
My question is, are you really comfortable in your skin, or are you seeking attention?
that?
So I know this will validation, right? This will spark, as you say, a lot of conversation. Why do we go for a tummy tuck?
Are you asking me that
Why do
question?
no? So I want listeners out there to just sit with it.
Okay.
Why do we go for a tummy tuck? Because we feel fat. We feel unattractive. Why do we get breast enlargement? Either because we don't have any, or we want bigger ones because what we have is just not enough. Or in some women's cases, I've heard that is because the man wants big breasts, and as long as he wants it, I can keep him happy, and if he's paying for it, that's what it is. So again, it's not your own thing. You're doing it for someone else.
I'm just so tired of my nipples looking at my toes. I just need a boob job for that reason.
Correct. So I had an augmentation where I made mine smaller after my children because it was just too heavy to carry. I didn't like it. I think they're still looking good and perky, but do I want to flaunt them? No. This is my personal space. This is private. Okay, if I'm wearing a bikini on the beach or wherever else it might be, so be it. Each to themselves, okay? They say, let's liberate ourselves. Let's express who we are. Let's put ourselves out there. Question is, why are you putting yourself out there? What is the reaction that you're looking for when you are going out to a public space, let's say a shopping mall, let's say wearing a bikini top and your nipple is nearly sticking out? Is that looking for a reaction, or because you're really comfortable in your skin? What is it? It's, you know what, there is not one size fits all answer for this. This is a topic that we can talk about for days, because I can tell you the very people that might sit here and go, it's for liberation and we're allowed to wear what we want to wear and we can express ourselves. I want to know, how old are you? What's your maturity level at? And will you say the same thing 20 years from now?
Wow, okay, we're going to let that sit and simmer. Maybe in the comments, maybe in our minds. But you've brought up such strong points for people to really think about and have it percolate in their minds, when we think about our own sexuality. How do we build intimacy? I mean, this is something that I struggled with personally, having gone through various difficulties and challenges in life. Like everyone, we build walls, we struggle to trust, we have all these inner issues. But to have an amazing sexual experience, I do believe that intimacy happens outside of the bedroom. And as you've mentioned, we don't have to start with sex first. Let's go for a massage if that's what you're into. So what are some other ways that we can build intimacy as people?
Yeah, what I've learned over the years, people talk about the 5 love languages. I like to narrow it down to only 4 because I think gifting is very superficial. I think it teaches us to become gold diggers. It's as simple as that. And it also tells me that you had very, and I'm generalizing, absent parental figures, that the only way that they could make up for the quality time that they didn't have with you is by showering you with gifts, because that will keep you quiet. And then in return, my opinion is you raise a brat. That's for me. That's how it is.
You are.
Okay. And so for me, how do we build intimacy? Ask yourself, what is it that I like? you and I, we can sit and drink a cup of tea. Let's just say we don't drink, and we're a couple. Intimacy to me is sitting with you, understanding your mind while I'm still touching you. Let's go out for a hike together. Intimacy for me is when you can look at your partner, your person, and they're fully clothed and you have this fluffy feeling about them on the inside. Whatever is raised. Intimacy is the ability to ask what you want without feeling guilty or shame when you're speaking to your partner, without it having to be a fight. It's to me, intimacy comes down to loving kindness on all levels. Because if you have loving kindness and if you go forth with that, I believe that whatever it is that we want from each other sexually, it can come into place naturally. So imagine the scene. I want whatever it is that I want from you. A new experience. I'm going to go back to a little bit of tie and tease. And I'm going, you know what? You have never allowed me to tie you up. And what is up with that?
Yes.
And then you might look at me and go, well, now I don't want to do that. However, imagine the scene like this. We're having a cup of tea or we're having a drink while we're watching a bit of telly. And I just happen to, let's say, get a scarf nearby and I start tying it around your hands, or I'm draping it over your leg and I'm tickling you. And you're liking the feeling. I'm doing it over your breast. I'm doing it in your neck. I put the scarf around you and I'm pulling you a little bit closer. I'm already engaging. How does that feel for you compared to what I just said?
It feels sexy.
That's it.
It feels intimate, right? And
Absolutely.
I have so much I want to explore with you. I mean, you raised the absent parent figure in our lives and how that damages our sexual relationships. But one thing that I would like to maybe touch for you to please touch on and provide our audience with some insight is, how do we normalize what is considered to be taboo? Like you said, the tie and tease, the spanking, these kinds of desires that we have. How can we normalize it within our relationships with our partners?
So I have 2 rules. As long as so the general rule is, as long as it's consensual,
yes, of course,
anything goes.
Okay.
Number 1, as long as it's consensual, anything goes. Number 2, no is no. And never use no as a safe word. Because no in role play, if I say, we're going to role play and I want to be a kidnap victim. No, don't take me. What if it is, are we stopping, are we going, So use something else, I don't know, pineapples. And then as long as it's legally consenting adults,
yes,
I say explore to whatever your comfort level is. I might not like someone spraying wonderful whipped cream over my body because I think it's sticky, and I'll go, oh no, that's taboo. We don't do that. And someone else might go, well, bring it and bring the honey, baby, because you are going to lick all day long. I'm saying to people, have fun. It's not evil. It's not a sin. We are intended to enjoy each other. We are intended to pleasure ourselves. And if you can explore and pleasure your partner and you have fantastic skills, do it, use it, express it, flaunt it within a safe space. Right? If you like the idea of dressing up as, and I mean, you've got beautiful hair, right? So I'm just going to go with that. Let's say you look absolutely hot in cosplay and you are Catwoman. I would love to see you with a mask and beautiful red lips like you're popping right now, and maybe your pigtails sticking out from that little Batman mask of yours.
Caroline.
Yes. And I'm going to say, as much as I am straight, I can go by very quickly and I'll go, okay, bring it, because I want to see what you've got next. I'm quite keen for that. because it's visual. Some people are stimulated visually. And I say, just have fun. Just like what you and I are laughing now, because you're probably thinking, oh my God, she's out of her mind. I'm never going to do it.
No,
And
it's
that's
actually the complete
okay.
opposite. It's like, I'm going to definitely try this.
And what I'm saying through that is, so what if it's you and I role playing, having fun with it, because we're going to laugh like this and we're going to go, gosh, remember when I put on that latex suit and I really tried to surprise you, but we just couldn't get it off because we forgot to add the powder or whatever it might be to get it off. Have fun. I think the important thing is that as long as you do it without blame and shame and with consent and that you are comfortable, who am I to say dressing up is goddamn awful?
Okay.
Or you like a paddle to the bum? It's none of my business. You do you as long as you have fun with it and nobody gets harmed in a malicious way.
I mean, that being said, this conversation has been so fruitful, and I'm sure so many are going to benefit from it. Just as a closing thought, what is one belief about sex that you think people need to really let go of?
That it's a sin, that it's taboo, and that I am incapable. A lot of women feel we are incapable of performing sexual acts. And I'm going, 5 minutes ago, I said to you, putting a scarf around your neck. Imagine now you're doing that and you're wrapping it around your body and you start undressing underneath it. How sexy is that for any person to engage with? Be yourself, be kind to yourself, right? And whoever or whatever was said to you when you were younger, remember, they are trying to paint you with the same brush that they painted themselves and their belief system. And my question or the thought that I'm leaving you with, ask yourself, is this my belief system or someone else's belief system? And I continue carrying the torch of fear for them and not for myself. Because you don't want to do that. Be kind to yourself, love yourself, explore. It is your birthright. And I say a birthright.
We are sexual
to do so.
Exactly.
We are sexual beings, right? And we are creatures that can be animated and we like to mimic. Try something. And if you're unsure, I say start soft and gentle. And if you don't know, call me. Believe me, I'm an exhibitionist. I show everybody everything. It's fabulous. It's nice when you see people liberate themselves. It's fantastic.
So not only has this been incredibly insightful, it's been super fun, and you've made this seemingly toxic topic so I think relatable to so many out there. So we just need to remember that sex is not toxic, shame is. And the stories we inherited don't have to be the ones that we live by. And not only is this coming from a professional, it's coming from a human being, right? So thank you, Caroline, for holding this conversation with so much care. To everyone listening and watching, liberation doesn't mean rushing. It doesn't mean forcing yourself to do something that you don't want to do. It means listening. And as you said, Caroline, it means safety. It means coming home to your body without apology. So, of course, this is TOXIQUE. Get intoxicated with your partner after watching this video. And we'll continue talking about the truths that we were never allowed to say out loud. So thank you so much for being so candid, so honest, and so willing. And if anybody needs to get in touch with their sexual side, this is Caroline Webb, expert in the field. Please feel free to get in touch with her. I've dropped her details too. And liberate yourself. It's probably one of the best things you can do. So stay well, stay intoxicated, and see you soon. Goodbye.
Well.